Hi everybody. So in this video today, I'm going to talk about my conversion story, how I converted to the Catholic faith, and how my whole family converted, and basically tell you guys that story. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Welcome to Fortes and Fide. If you don't know what Fortes and Fide means, that means strong in faith. And the reason why I named this channel that is because when I was in 8th grade, we had this Dominican priest teach us catechism, which is a huge blessing. Luckily, I was fortunate to have that. Every time we start a lesson, he'd write on the whiteboard Fortes and Fide, and he told us that means strong in faith, which always stuck with me. So that's why I put this as the channel. So going over the conversion story. So when I was in 5th grade, my whole family converted to Catholicism. Now, to give you some background, prior to that happening, my mom lived in the Philippines. She was a Filipino Catholic practicing. She was taught by nuns. She went to a Catholic school, Catholic boarding school. And when she left the Philippines and went to university in America, in her own words, she abandoned her faith. She no longer practiced. She no longer went to mass. And she didn't take her faith seriously anymore. And her other family members kind of went through that same experience. And she met my father, who was also not Catholic either. He was baptized Lutheran. He was raised in a Christian home. His mom was Baptist. But you know, when I was growing up with my family, I have an older brother and a younger sister and a younger brother. You know, you can pretty much call us agnostics. We didn't really go to church every Sunday. We only ever went every once in a while because my aunt would kind of pressure us to go, or not pressure us, but basically have us go, invite us, and we felt obligated to go. We didn't really want to go all the time. I can kind of tell. You know, if there was something more important going on, like a football game, then we probably wouldn't go. We'd probably stay home, or at least my dad would stay home. And you know, so we didn't really take religion that seriously, and we lived more like agnostics. This all changed when my uncle, who was taking a trip to Rome, came back with rosaries blessed by Saint Pope John Paul II. Now, he gave these rosaries to my mom as a gift, and she placed it in our home, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what a rosary was. I thought, like, oh, this is cool. It looks like a necklace, right? A necklace with Jesus on it, and didn't really think much of it. But then, during that week of the rosary being placed in our home, my whole family had experiences with this conviction of wanting to become Catholic. My mom, who had left the faith many years ago, felt this calling and felt this desire to become Catholic again. Excuse me. My brother, out of the blue, suggested that I go to a Catholic school. And I had dreams of our family becoming Catholic, of sitting in church and praying as a family. I don't, you know, to me it's nothing, to me it's a miracle, because we had lived our lives completely not Christian at all. We were Christian by name only, and I didn't even know what Catholicism was. I really didn't understand it. I knew that my cousin was Catholic, and that was about it. And there was Catholic schools, and JFK was a Catholic. That's all I pretty much knew. I didn't know anything else. And I didn't even know who Pope John Paul II was. And, you know, when that happened, you know, things kind of just started happening. We found a local Catholic church. We found a school that my parents took me out. They took me out of the public school and put me in a Catholic school. And one of the things that really, you know, at least for me, got me to fall in love with the faith was this reverence in the Mass, in the Sunday Mass. And the reason why is because in my prior experience going to church, there wasn't really much of a reverence towards the body and blood of Jesus. There wasn't really a reverence towards it. In the Protestant churches I used to attend, it was just kind of this thing where we did every once in a while, where you dip this bread in grape juice and you eat it, and It was at it. It wasn't really taken with bowing or reverence. It was just kind of like, um, for lack of a better term, just like somebody handing out a sample and you're picking it from the tray and dipping it and then eating it and then sitting down and then having a conversation. Like it was not reverent at all, and I didn't take it seriously at all because I didn't really think that was the body and blood of Christ. I was taught that it was more of like a ritual. However, when I went to a Catholic church, the thing that stuck out to me a lot was the fact that I couldn't take it. I saw all these people, and my mom told me, like, and other people told me that you have to do this when you come up for communion. You can't receive the body and blood of Christ unless you're Catholic. And I thought to myself, like, wow, that's pretty unique, but I want that too, though. Why can't I have it, right? So I had this desire. I couldn't put it into words, but I was like, why can't I have it? And so I did that. We went to mass and we did that, and the next thing I noticed is like, oh, it's the same thing every week. You guys don't do this every once in a while. You do this every week. And I was just enthralled by the fact that Catholics truly believe that it's the body and blood of Christ. And I was like, whoa, that's incredible. And another thing that stuck out was, all these rituals, like where you have to bow every time you pass by the altar. You have to kneel in front of the tabernacle. You have to kneel before you go into your pew. You have to make the sign of the cross with this holy water before you go into the church. You have to be reverent and silent when Mass is over. You have to spend some time in prayer before Mass starts. Like there's all these rituals, and all these prayers and all this structure that I was really drawn to. I was like, wow, this is pretty incredible. And shortly after we started going to Mass again, we started attending RCIA. My mom was starting at first just to kind of get restarted with her faith, but my dad wasn't attending yet, and I'll tell you guys the significance of that too. But I was taking RCIC, which is RCIA for kids, as well as my siblings. And another thing that really stuck out to me is that while I was really intrigued by the Mass, in the back of my head, I was having a few doubts because my dad wasn't doing it. And I want you guys to hear this in case you have children who have fallen away from the faith, or are kind of neglecting their faith. And I really, and I had a conversation with my brother about this, and I think it's really true. When the father of the home isn't practicing their faith, it's going to be harder for the children too. And I would say same for the mother, okay? If both spouses are not in unison with practicing their faith, it's going to be hard for the children to follow their example, because they're going to be confused. Like, well, dad's not doing it, mom's doing it, they both seem all right, so I guess it's okay if I don't go all the time, right? So there's these thoughts that will enter their head. And those thoughts were entering my head too, because my dad wasn't coming with us. And my mom asked the priest, and I didn't find this out till years later, my mom asked the priest saying, hey, my husband, he's not Catholic, he's baptized Lutheran, I want him to go to church with us, but he's not coming. What do I do? Do I force him, right? So what the priest said is like, no, pray for him, go to Mass like you always do, take the kids, and when you come home, be joyful, right? Just be joyful, and he'll do it on his own, right? And that's a lot of faith that my mom had, and she did that. She just came home, didn't bug him about it, and then one day my dad decides, all right, I'll just go with you guys, right? And when my dad started coming to Mass with us, a thing that really stuck out to me was seeing both my mother and father praying together, seeing them kneel before God, worshiping God as one. Helped me understand. I didn't understand it then, but I understand it now. Helped me understand why Christ calls us to be the body, why we are the members of his body, right? The family structure represents the church, right? The unity of the church. And in that moment, when I saw my parents praying together, it gave me a profound sense of joy, a profound sense of peace, knowing that this is what keeps families together, right? That's what I saw in that moment. And another thing that stuck out to me too is there was a time, and my dad might remember this, maybe he won't, is we were all in Mass, and Mass was over, and we were leaving, and my dad said, hey, you guys can go, and because we were going to go get donuts and stuff, you guys can go, I'm going to stay here and pray a bit longer. And that to me touched me more too, I don't know if I don't think I've ever told my dad this, but that's one thing I saw that really stuck with me more. That was like, oh man, that's incredible. This experience is changing my father. Now my father wasn't a bad guy; he was a good man, but he's a good man. But that I just seeing him just have such awe for God was nothing I've ever experienced before. Now, after this, I was taking RCIC class, and when I was taking the RCIC class, I was really enthralled. I was just fascinated by the things that were being taught. I was really zealous to learn, so much so that I started noticing altar servers at mass, and I was like, "Can I do that? I'm not Catholic yet. Can I do that?" And I asked the priest. I said, and my parents did it for me because I was too shy. If I can altar serve, and he said like, well, yeah, you can. We really need altar servers. We have a shortage, but you can't receive communion. And to me, I was like, that's fine. I get to be closer to Jesus. That's fine. I'm totally okay with that. I'll be ready when I'm ready to receive. When I become Catholic, I will do so. So I started altar serving before I became Catholic, and I really enjoyed it. And I did it until I was like 17. I think that's when I had my last altar serving. But yeah, and then eventually, went through the Holy Rites. I was already baptized, so I got confession. You know, confirmation happened when I was a teenager, but I got confession and the Eucharist, and boom, I became Catholic, and so did my whole family. So I hope this story was inspiring to you. Hopefully, this gave you insight as to maybe why I became Catholic and why I'm so drawn to this faith. And I want to make something really clear too. Becoming a Catholic, it's something that will never leave you. And I think this is true, especially in my mom's case, because my mom was a revert to the Catholic faith. She was Catholic and then became Catholic again. So if you're someone that's left the church, maybe for, reasons of scandal, maybe you got fed up with what happened in the church with the scandal, and maybe there's certain leaders in the church that you don't trust, right? Maybe you had a bad experience with a priest in confession. Maybe, a lot of bad things happened to you, and you have a hard time trusting in God's mercy and God's forgiveness and God's love. Here's what I'll have to say about that, okay? About the priest thing. Remember that out of the 12 apostles that Jesus chose, there was a Judas, right? Now, Jesus still called this man his apostle. This man was his friend. This man was someone he wanted to change. He wanted to. But Judas, through his own will, betrayed Jesus, right? So the actions of a few don't justify the actions of many, right? So even if there's certain leaders in the church, certain priests that say things that are contrary to what Christ taught, remember this. When Christ gave the keys to Peter, he said, "Upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it." The Catholic Church is the fullness of the Christian faith. Okay? It's the fullness. The Mass was established by Christ, especially if you go to the Old Liturgy, which if you go to like the Latin Mass, that is the same the same sacrifice of the Mass that the apostles did. And I want you to think about that. When you go to Mass, you are celebrating something that's thousands of years old, that's universal, that Christ instituted himself through the apostles. Now, when you recognize that, it doesn't matter what a priest may say that's contrary to Christ's teaching, what he does. What matters is that we follow Jesus Christ through the church that he founded. He established the Catholic Church by means of giving us grace to be drawn closer to him, right? He wouldn't start something and then as soon as people are, misuse the gifts that he's been given, which we all do that, right? We all misuse gifts that we've been given. He wouldn't start something and be like, and say like the gates of hell will never prevail, and then say, oh, never mind, it actually does, right? That's not true. God is truth. God speaks truth. And this is why I'm so drawn to the Catholic faith, because it is the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church founded by Jesus Christ himself. Right? We can't say that about other religions. We can't, even other denominations of Christianity, like Lutheranism, started by Martin Luther. He was the leader of the Lutheran Church, right? Just like Mormons. And I'm not saying this to like put down other denominations. I was one of them. I came from another denomination, and I know many Christians who are not Catholic who are super like spiritual, super well. They have a great understanding of theology. So I'm not hating on anyone. I'm just telling you that Jesus established this church, and the issue that people might have is that they'll look at people who are leaders of the church and they'll decide, oh well, I don't want to become a part of that because of the leader. Remember, our leader is Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is our leader. He appointed Peter to be the vicar of Christ, the visible head of Christ. But Jesus is still the head of the church. Okay? Jesus is still the head. He uses us through the gifts of the Holy Spirit to do things that we may not understand right now, but will be revealed in time. Okay? So, hopefully you guys got a lot of insight from this story. Hopefully this kind of helped you guys kind of discern things. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. God bless.